the story of hormone replacement therapy is an interesting one, and it's more a media frenzy and a little bit of myth than there is sort of an actual scientific story that kind of goes along with it. So in the late 1980s and early 1990s, the majority of women were on hormone replacement therapy. And actually, it's good to define what hormone replacement therapy is. I think that's always excellent to do. Typically, it means an estrogen and then plus or minus a progestin or progesterone if a woman has an intact uterus, although you can take it even if you don't, and then plus or minus testosterone, and then sometimes plus or minus vaginal estrogen. So menopausal hormone therapy can be a wide range of things. So most women were given estrogen as kind of the key component of hormone therapy in the 80s and 90s. And in 1992, the American College of Physicians, like at their annual meeting, strongly advocated that most women take estrogen shortly after menopause. However, there was no randomized controlled trials yet, but prospectively, the clinicians were seeing that the women who were taking hormone therapy were living longer, having better bones, and having less heart disease. So they went to the NIH and said, we got to put together a randomized controlled double-blinded study. So they enrolled thousands of women. Actually, it's one of the biggest randomized controlled trials we've ever had. You know, the NIH spent billions of dollars over multiple sites. Now, inherent in that was they got women enrolled in the study who were closer to the age of 62 or 63. So on average, 12.3 years later than the average age of menopause, which was 50. It's now 51. It's actually slightly creeping upwards. And they gave women one dose and one formulation of hormone therapy. So if you didn't have a uterus, you could take Premarin, and that was conjugated equine estrogen 0.65. And you took that alone without a progestin. And then if you did have a uterus, you were given Prem Pro, actually at the same estrogen dose, 0.65 of conjugated equine estrogen, and then medroxyprogesterone acetate. So this study sets the stage for what will happen in a few years in 2002. In the summer of 2002, a press report, was held where they said hormone therapy is dangerous. And what they said is that it increased the risk of breast cancer, but it was only in the women on estrogen and progesterone. The women on the estrogen only were actually doing great. No safety threshold was crossed there, but they were noticing increased diagnoses of breast cancer. And the media reported a 26% increased risk of invasive breast cancer. Now, if you...
26% increased risk?
Yes. Now, if you don't know the difference between relative risk and absolute risk, that sounds really scary.
Yeah.
That sounds like a quarter of the women were getting breast cancer. But the translation of that was 2 to 4 women out of 1,000 over 5 years on oral Prempro at that dose. 2 to 4 women out of 1,000 over 5 years on that one dose and formulation. Now, later they went on to find that even women who were in the placebo group who got breast cancer, comparatively, they had less mortality from breast cancer in the women who took the hormone therapy. We'll come back to that later when we talk about breast cancer myths, so hold that thought. They also then said, well, and it increased the risk of cardiovascular disease, strokes, and so that was kind of the end. The damage was done. Hormone therapy was considered kryptonite from 2002 onwards. Although there's been so much data and evidence to the contrary to show how safe estrogen is, to debunk the myth about breast cancer risk, and to show that once taken within 10 years, women do fantastic. They live longer. They do have less heart disease. They do have better bone health. The problem and the discrepancy really was that when they were looking at those prospective studies in the 80s and in the early 90s, women were given hormone therapy right around the time of menopause, whereas in the Women's Health Initiative, they were much older. In fact, the age range was 50 to 79. So you had women in their late 70s that were given hormone therapy for this trial. That really mixes up physiology, right? You have different stages of life, women who maybe are not as healthy as they are today. And so that kind of landed us in this whole, is hormone therapy bad? So a plethora of data shows that it is good for us. And that's kind of why we're here today, is because we are still breaking down those myths and misconceptions.
In the 80s and 90s, the majority of women were put on hormone. And I think that you and some of your cohorts have, instead of calling it hormone replacement therapy, do you not call it menopause?
Hormone
Is it?
therapy.
So what is it? It's menopause hormone therapy.
Yeah. Well, so, the interesting thing about the names is that hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, is something that actually we use when we're physiologically replacing hormones in women who've had premature or early menopause.
Which would be 40.
Yeah. Premature
That's it, right?
menopause is before age 40. And that could be from surgery, or that could be from premature ovarian insufficiency. And then early menopause is if you have menopause under age 45. So then between 40 and 45. So you're supposed to physiologically replace their estrogen, almost like a diabetic, where you're physiologically replacing their insulin. So for women who experience menopause at more of a natural age, 46 and up, it's kind of easier to call it menopausal hormone therapy, or MHT. But even, us as experts, we kind of use them interchangeably all the time.
Help me understand the blind spot. Late 80s, early 90s, everybody is on hormone replacement therapy. Is that accurate to say?
The data shows that about 50, sometimes 65% of women in certain studies were taking menopausal hormone therapy, or an estrogen, and then an estrogen plus a progestin in that time.
Is it as ubiquitous, or was it as ubiquitous as, say, birth control? And let me frame this up.
Yeah.
Someone goes to their physician and says, maybe a young girl in their 20s, I'm PMS, or I don't want to get pregnant. There is no second thoughts of giving someone birth control.
Mm-hmm.
Is it fair to say that potentially that is how it was in the 80s and 90s?
What I will say, because I wasn't there, I was just a little kid at the time, but my colleagues will tell me, they remember prescribing menopausal hormone therapy with like this joy, like, oh, now you kind of have this. They would say things, like, fountain of youth, or, the vitamin D, or sort of like the life hormone. I would hear them say all these different things as I was talking about menopausal hormone therapy. Now, 15 years after the Women's Health Initiative, they were like, Heather, you weren't there, but it was so common. And we did it with such joy, prescribing hormone therapy.
At the time, were there health risks? Were people concerned about, because right now, and still to this day, and I think for easily the last 20 years, I'm still a practicing physician. I hear it almost every day. Is it safe?
Yep.
If I take estrogen, will I get breast cancer? Will it cause blood clotting, stroke? Talk to me about the safety profiles.
Yeah. So let's actually look at the data. Sometimes it's helpful to I always say to my patients, let's do the logical and we'll keep the emotional aside, because let's start with breast cancer. It is very emotional. We don't want any of our patients to get diagnosed with breast cancer. However, on the logical side, we know that about 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed, and that it's really common. And that luckily now that doesn't lead to mortality or death when it's caught early. What is actually the leading cause of death in women, as you and I both know, is heart disease. And there's, so much, there's so much still emotion around the breast cancer diagnosis, even though heart disease or heart attack could kill you immediately. So in the studies, they found this 26% increased risk in breast cancer. That absolute risk is actually fairly small, 2 to 4 women out of 1,000 over 5 years. That's actually not statistically significant. What they also found was, as mentioned before, when you got breast cancer in the placebo group, those women actually had higher mortality or higher death rates. So it didn't mean you had a higher death rate. Now, here's the important point. Remember we talked about how they used a synthetic progestin, medroxyprogesterone acetate, in the Women's Health Initiative. But the women who didn't take the progestin, because they didn't have their uterus, they could take estrogen only. They were actually showing less breast cancer than the placebo. So then the thought was maybe it was the progestin. So they do this study where then they replace that synthetic progestin with what we'd call bioidentical progesterone, which just means prometrium or progesterone. Doesn't mean compounded, can be commercially available. And when they swapped the progestin for the progesterone, they saw no increased risk of breast cancer above a woman's baseline. That means that starting hormone therapy, if you're using bioidentical progesterone. And if you're using now, more times we use bioidentical estradiol in different formulations. We can talk about that, pill versus patch, gel, etc. If it's not going to increase your risk above baseline. And there's massive benefits like reducing heart disease, the leading cause of death in women, and improving bones so you don't have an osteoporotic fracture, which has a high morbidity and mortality rate. There is major benefits to considering hormone therapy.